welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast for the Critérium du Dauphiné Stage 2 and a quick Stage 1 recap. We weren't able to pod yesterday, unfortunately, but we're back with a pretty stacked start list here of the defending Tour de France champion, Jonas Vingegaard. The defending Tour de France champ hasn't won the Dauphiné for a long time pre-COVID. A lot of other GC guys, though. Ben O'Connor, Landa, Bernal, Hindley, last year's winner of the Giro d'Italia, Enric Mas, David Gaudu, Carapaz, Adam Yates, Ciccone, who missed out on the Giro. A whole host of GC guys are here, as well as some a couple of sprinters, Groenewegen and Bennett, trying to tune up. But yesterday's stage, Benji, was, I mean, it's just Groenewegen Sufferfest. They did this last year, right? It's these hilly stages, and then do you believe that old sort of tale of racing to get fit on parkour that don't suit you? Like, is he more likely to win a pancake flat sprint to Bordeaux in a month than if he'd done Brussels Classic like the Mar?
Well, I don't know, to be honest. Maybe there's certain riders that prefer that preparation for a race than going on an extra altitude camp and so forth. But I would say that looking at the top teams, they usually do choose the altitude camp, then a race that fits the rider, and then the proper preparation for the goal that riders are going to. So whether it's the right choice or not, they've done it last year. Did Groenewegen not win a Tour de France stage afterwards? But I doubt that was necessarily as a consequence of the preparation being in the Dauphiné and so forth. But it's also like, the factor that I see missing is that you don't get to test your train that much if you go to races like this. Because the dynamic of your train, the dynamic with your sprinter and your pilot, is sometimes what fails if you come together in the Tour de France, if you haven't done it enough in the races before. But then again, the team that Groenewegen has around him has been around him for a year and a half now. So I would expect that they've got some chemistry already. That being said, we've got a stage here. We've got Dauphiné stage 1. And the principle with these first two stages is that they're kind of those stages where if you take a look at the parkour, you're like, this fits the punchier sprinters, and this fits the potential breakaway riders if the punchier sprinters teams don't get along with each other, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the breakaway had a really good chance yesterday, and a strong break got in. Van Moer, Godon, who won Brabantse Pijl ahead of Healy. That result now looks a lot better as well after Liège and the Giro, as well as Rune Gerhardt on Intermarché, who does like to get in the break on the opening stage of stage races, like Andalusia, which he won the first stage last year, I think. And so that was a problem for Jumbo-Visma. They got Laporte here, no Van Aert, which means it was all in for Laporte to go for the stage. There's talented French young rider Axel Zangler. Quick step of about 4 options. Seneschal, but he's kind of gone by the wayside. Vernon's their best, like, pure sprinter. Alaphilippe, who knows what form he's in. And Baggioli was supposed to be good at these stages, but it hasn't really worked out for him the last couple of years, I think, since that Tour de l'Ain stage against Roglic in 2020. So it was just a classic hilly stage, and it was way more attritional than maybe some teams hoped for or expected. There was the breakaway got deep into the stage. Van Baarle was controlling. Jumbo-Visma were doing a lot of controlling. Kruijswijk came, brought the gap to 7 seconds after Volta did magnificent work on the final climb, but then there's a descent to the finish. It was raining, and Rune Gerhardt broke away from Godon and used the motor, used the rain, used risk, used his aero position, turned in levers, which he has, and he brought the gap out to 15 seconds, and this was the closest run finish ever because Jumbo ran out of teammates. Van Hooijdonk couldn't pull for that long in the last 2Ks, and Vingegaard ended up putting Laporte on his back and did the lead out, and then I think Tamino led out Stannard, the Alpecin team, and then, Laporte jumps and catches Gerhardt in the last 25 meters. So heartbreak for him, but a very, very exciting finish. And these things go both ways. Sometimes you make it, and it would have been the best win ever, defeating the big Empire Jumbo, and sometimes you get caught. But are you surprised to see Vingegaard mixing it up, Benji? Doing the lead out? Would
maybe
Roglic have done it?
We saw last year that Roglic did it at the Dauphiné, or worked a bit in the Dauphiné when it comes to the final workings to catch the breakaway. But I didn't necessarily expect Jonas Vingegaard to be the second last lead out man for Laporte in these, well, spoilers, first 2 stages, because that's essentially the role he's had so far. Obviously, he's here for GC, but he's willing to give something back to his domestiques who will work for him at the Tour de France. So I kind of like that, but I also fear for the danger that it brings. I fear more when Roglic does something like that, because I still feel like Roglic's crash probability is higher than that of Vingegaard, but hey, it's cool to see, though. It's cool to see. I can't complain. But Herregods, man, I was so pissed. I was so pissed that he got caught. He deserved that so much. And it's also like, he was almost caught on the climb before, and to then continue onwards, keep fighting, even when they're literally 25 meters behind, and get a gap again, and benefit from the fact that those domestiques are gone. I love that. And then Godon runs away with the combativity. Oh, I'm done. I can't handle this.
I mean, combativity's for losers, so you shouldn't wish it on Herrehots. I think. Anyway, Laporte wins the stage ahead of Trentin, who led him out. Herrehots third on the line. Zangler fourth. Van Hil's quite fast fifth, and then it's Baggioli seventh. Like, you think he'd be quicker than Van Hil's, right? But he's not. Wright eighth, also not so quick in the groups. Standard ninth, Brenner 10th. Anyway, Laporte takes the yellow jersey. French rider in the yellow jersey. To be honest, not that much buzz in France. I think it is different him doing this on Jumbo compared to doing it on Cofidis or Groupama, unfortunately, for him. But I'm sure he doesn't care because he's getting the W and winning anyway. The next stage, another similar stage from Brassac-les-Mines to La Chaise Dieu, which I assume means the chair of the gods, seat of the gods, seat of God, also known as my gaming chair that I sit on. Up and down hilly stage, 170 Ks, finishing actually at 1,000 meters altitude, and they do a circuit 3 times with a 1K 7.5% climb in it, and then it's just always up and down. There's like no flat. And when I saw this finish, even though it's okay, sort of 3%, I was like, there's no way Bennett and Groenewegen can win this. Okay, they might get to the finish, but it will have been so hard before they won't be able to sprint. And this actually looked like prime Alaphilippe of old territory. He won a similar stage in Tirreno ahead of Van Aert and Van der Poel and Pogacar in 2021, but we haven't seen that. And we thought, are they going to go for Vernon? Are they going to go for Baggioli, who he let out yesterday? Anyway, this is a stage, actually. It's interesting. This is like huge hindsight, but don't you reckon this is such hindsight? Jumbo would have been more likely to win this stage with Van Baal competing against Cavagna in the break.
Yeah, but that's
Laporte's in yellow. It's ridiculous.
You got to pull it back to the pre-race situation where we don't know where Alaphilippe is when it comes to his form. We saw him riding a tiny bit in second, third position yesterday, and today we don't know who they're going to go for. So on paper, Laporte is favored for the stage.
Yeah, he was.
They go into it with the expectations at the end of last stage, Laporte is favored. So it's completely understandable what Jumbo is doing in this stage. I was actually more surprised the way Quickstep was riding the stage throughout the stage, but we'll get to that. We've got a breakaway that once again includes pretty strong riders. Like we said it about the previous stage, Herregods, Van Moeren, so in a breakaway, Godon, that's a strong breakaway. But if we then take a look at stage 2, we've got Victor Kampenaerts in there. He came back from his injury, which I swear he barely could walk like a few months ago. So it's good to see that he's back on the bike, that he's back competing at the highest level. Piccolo in the breakaway, your boy from EF, Kenny Elissonde, Jonas Gregard, and Nance Peter. So these are riders that can, and Pierre Latour, but every descent he's kind of like, every descent he's 10 meters behind. So I was considering the breakaway on the descent here for a second. Anyway, you're right. He was in there. And basically, that breaks ahead. Crash behind in the peloton almost instantly as the race is starting. And in there, Carlos Rodriguez on the floor, some random French riders, and also Steven Kruijswijk. And he actually ends up abandoning the race, which I don't know what the consequences are. Haven't seen anything when it comes to Kruijswijk, whether it's going to influence the Tour de France or stuff like that. But it's definitely a bummer for Jumbo-Visma. And have they brought something out when it comes to explanation?
No, I haven't seen a tweet or checked, but yeah, I don't know. I also don't know whether, because like if you break a collarbone or if you've broken something, there's not enough time to recover for the Tour de France. And I have my view on Kelderman. I had that before, that I thought Kelderman should do the Tour replacing whoever, I don't mind Rouleur, but yeah, Kelderman's the first reserve. Walter looks good, yeah.
Kelderman and Walter are the two that could definitely replace people if they fall out of this group, I would say.
Were you surprised to see it's Van Baarle doing, and he did a good job of it the last 2 days, riding against 5-man strong breaks. Van Baarle, with the help of Dave and Ines, but I'll say Van Baarle did 80% of the work, was chasing a group of 5 or 6 again today. He looks in good shape. You surprised it was him, not Van Hooijdonk?
I feel like their role switched around, as in from what Van Baarle was doing for Ineos. Ooh, my lens just fell off my camera. Anyway, what Van Baarle was doing for Ineos versus what Van Hooijdonk was doing last year for Jumbo, that seems to have switched around, where Van Baarle is now the rider that is doing the earlier work, while Van Hooijdonk is now used a bit later, even though today he was
wasn't
used...
that good the last 2 days, frankly.
I don't know.
Was his lead out today on that 1K 7% as good as his lead out? I feel like it was
too hard. Too hard, too short.
I mean, when I compare it to his work in Paris-Nice last year when he launched the 3 of them, now, I mean, maybe it's the same, maybe it's a harder stage before, but yeah. But maybe Van Baarle doesn't have that real punch. Van Hooijdonk probably has better punch. I don't know. Anyway, maybe it doesn't matter. Frankly, Van Baarle was just good at it. He could do it all day. And yeah, he rode on the front, kept the break at 45 seconds. And maybe you wanted to discuss it. You tweeted about it, Benji. And I thought about it more as well. Don't you think Jumbo were doing the thing where Ellison is on 45 seconds in the break? We'll keep it in check, but we just won a stage. We're not going to bring it all the way back. We'll keep it close. But if you want to bring it back quick step, you have to help.
I believe that Jumbo wanted the stage regardless. I'll be honest about it.
Of course.
So, yesterday's stage, Jumbo-Visma clearly wanted to throw everything at the fan to make sure, not at fans, but like at the race itself, to make sure that Laporte had the best chance of winning this stage. That was yesterday. And going into today's stage, Quickstep, in my opinion, should have gone with the theory, Jumbo is going to try and throw everything at the race again. They're clearly controlling from the start, so let them do it. And if they give up last minute anyway, then you can throw your eggs in the fire and actually start working. But I feel like I was surprised at how much Quickstep is carrying races that they're not predetermined favorite for. Now, maybe they believe in sight that they are the favorite, but wouldn't you use the underdog position that you're in as much as you can?
Yeah, and because I really like Devon Ines. I know he's like 45 years old, but like he's in good shape. And I remember it's not too long ago in 2021, he was leading out Alaphilippe to launch him in the Tour de France opening stages to glory. Like, and he's, so yeah, and Cavagna's, I dare say, overrated at this point. I know his climbing has been good, but in terms of adding value to wins,
should have been in the break.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, exactly. I agree. He'd have a better chance in the breakaway, then they don't have to chase. And it's kind of what Trek did, right? They got Tess Fazion. He's not a stage favorite. Get someone in the break. Okay, Kenny's not going to win, but, you know, anyway, what I was going to say, we forgot to mention Ethan Hayter unfortunately crashed twice yesterday. He crashed first, not injured, and then he crashed again coming back on a descent with a new bike, and he then crashed much more heavily, and Steve Cummings said he's almost lucky only broke a collarbone. Cummings' interview said it looked quite bad when they got there, so he's unfortunately out, and he was obviously a man for these first 3 stages. And then the focus shifted to GC, which again, I got a little bit of a critical hat on, but can Ineos really not spare Frailer to go for today's stage, Benji? Like, is Bernal going to win this race overall? Like, they have 4 World Tour wins this year. You know, Alpecin have more, Quickstep have more, Jumbo have more, UAE have more. You don't think Frailer, is it really making that big a difference if he goes for a stage or not?
He could have competed for it. I don't believe Frailer would have had a chance of winning this specific stage. I feel like he's got a bit of a sprint, but not to compete with the riders that end up finishing this stage in the first 3 positions, for example. I expect, like, he's kind of like the Aramburu for me.
I thought benefits from the buyer move.
Oh. Possible, but I also felt from beforehand that if you are in the buyer move, you will need multiple riders to be able to make it in the first place. Anyway, we haven't spoken about the buyer move.
Anyway, maybe he just didn't have the legs.
Yeah.
And maybe he doesn't feel good. So I'm just making things up. I'm just saying, the way I view protecting GC in 1 weeks, I really like going for the stage as much as possible, and have the GC guy, especially on an uphill finish, fend for themselves.
For example, if Godu was here with a team that had Madouas in it,
he's got to go. He's got to let Madouas go for it.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, is Madouas here?
I actually don't know.
He is here. Yeah. I bet you he wasn't allowed to go for it. That's a great point then, Benji. Well done. Anyway, the break gradually disintegrates, and this is the most bizarre thing. This was the day of cramps. Everybody cramped. First, Grandin has to go to the side of the road, get off the bike, he's cramping. Then Pierre the Latour starts cramping, and he backs himself out of the break with cramps. Then Castroviejo's cramping, and I need him and Martinez need to change their facial hair because it's confusing me. They both got the same facial hair. Fix it. One of you go with the soul. Oh no, Frailo's got the soul patch. Fuck. Anyway, Castroviejo's cramping. I'm like, why is everyone cramping? How hot is it? I mean, it's humid, but I don't know. I don't know what was in the air. I've never seen 3 riders on 3 different teams. One in the break, one in the backed out of the break, one in the peloton cramp.
A lot of riders cramping at the same time. Like, I was already thinking about names we could use for the riders, like we did at Blois Belgium Tour when Campenards became Crampenards, but Crampo Viejo doesn't really sound as good, I fear. So, La Cramp? That's actually a pretty good name. Pierre La
Cramp.
Anyway, we'll continue onwards. Those cramps happened, and like you said, there was a buyer move as the break was being called with 10 kilometers to go. Jumbo was on this climb called Côte de Guet, which in the peloton was a bit odd for me, what was happening there, because they catch the breakaway with Van Hooijdonk being the rider doing it. I felt like Van Hooijdonk's pull there, like I mentioned a bit earlier, was a bit brute to the point that he went off the front, and Vingegaard and Laporte were like riding next to each other. I was like, fuck, where's the rest of our team? Where's Walter? Where's Benoit? And they were like on third, fourth row, but they didn't have the time or place to move up at that point. And yeah, in all honesty,
the buyer jumps, and in this sort of period of no one taking control, it takes a while for Walter to move up with Benoit, and obviously they've lost a man with Kruijswijk, and Tobias buyer jumps, and he gets a good gap, 9 seconds too, and it's like a really undulating uphill finish, and there's steep section. It's just, you can tell. And Bennett, because of this lull, I think if Walter was there to slap it straight after Van Hooijdonk, then Ben and Groenewegen drop there. But they don't. They're able to stay because that climb was done maybe 8, 9, 10 seconds slower than it would have been otherwise. The speed buyer did it at. And so they're still in the group, but their teammates are tired. They're slipping positions in the group. They've still got 9, 8Ks of largely uphill to the finish, including a 1 kilometer, 5.5% climb is being done full gas. And actually, it was done so hard, Benji, that like Walter's been unbelievable, actually.
Yeah.
He just got on the front, pulling super hard, did he pull buyer back or Benoit?
He pulled buyer back for quite a bit, then Benoit took over a tiny bit later. So they both helped bringing buyer back, but I want to stand still for this at this point for a second. And we saw, when it comes to Walter there, that wasn't this the guy that people were ignorantly stamping as a bad domestique when it comes to Strade Bianche? Because
yeah,
it's kind of shocking, huh? Because we've seen since Tirreno, since Gran Camino towards this race, that he's one of the... Is he Vingegaard's kus?
He is. When Vingegaard, you saw it on camera, wants to pee, Walter, he says Walter, and Walter gives him the push. We saw it. So what closer bond can you have? So yeah, maybe he is Walter's sidekick, but he's not on the tour short list or long list or anything. So now, how much can Walter really help in proper mountains? Because he's been good in, as you said, punchy stages, Gran Camino in Basque Country, although he was very good in the break in the IBAR stage. But yeah, he pulled back by but Jumbo looking thin on the ground again, and there's no way Vingegaard, if Laporte's going to get to the finish and not get swamped, Vingegaard's going to have to pull again. And EF are looking good. They've got Quinn here as an option, who's done well in a Dauphiné stage, third behind Wout, I think, in Hayter last year. They've got Carapaz. El Jaguar's won a Giro stage that's very similar to this. Quickstep, I couldn't really tell who was there. I saw Alaphilippe in front of Seneschal, and Baggioli was pulling, actually. I've erased Quickstep. Quickstep actually did take a lot of control and line this out in the last 6 kilometres, more so than Jumbo-Visma with Baggioli. So they reversed roles today. And then I don't think anyone else attacked. Maybe, anyway. Did anyone else attack? Or was it just...
EF rider? Did you mention that?
Yeah. So EF did a reverse lead out. Sean Quinn, because I got confused. I was like, Carapaz? Sean Quinn, I think it was Sean Quinn.
Yeah,
jumped.
I think so.
And then Vingegaard has to pull him back the whole time. Vingegaard, I think, had already been pulling. They're still like on an uphill drag. Only the last 250 meters is really flat. Bennett's sliding positions. Groeneweggen's fully dropped at this point. Vingegaard brings him back. Haig has moved into second position, so the sun's come out over 20 degrees and maybe Jack's feeling a little bit better. And he was there, I reckon he was there in case it split. Honestly, I reckon Haig is feeling a lot better today. Laporte's on the wheel of Haig. He would have been grateful, actually, he was there, so he had someone that was 6'2" to draft instead of Vingegaard to draft. And then Carapaz jumps. El Jaguar jumps on the right-hand side. Laporte is caught flat-footed. He goes to sprint, nothing there. And then Alaphilippe masterfully gets into the slipstream out of Laporte into Carapaz slipstream, jumps out and wins this sprint easily in time for the Calma post up, very early post up, as is his want. And yeah, 2 French wins in a row, but most importantly in the news of the day, Benji, Alaphilippe, this is what he was dominating. Like 2019, he would have been the favourite for this finish, not Laporte.
Certainly. And while Laporte has been very strong recently, Alaphilippe back then was just crazy powerful on stages like this. And the steeper it would get, the better Alaphilippe would become against these punchy sprinters. So when it comes to Alaphilippe, it's nice to see that he's back on a level where he's going to be competing for Tour de France stage wins, because that's kind of what I was looking for when it comes to Alaphilippe. I want him to compete in the first 2 stages of the Tour de France in Basque Country. I want to see him fight for the yellow jersey with Van der Poel, with Van Aert, with Binyam if he comes back to form, with Pidcock. Those kind of riders are the ones I see fighting on those first stages. And I love that shit, seeing Alaphilippe back in form. He's got loads of criticism by Patrick Lefevre as well in the last year. Now, maybe that was to motivate him. Maybe that was a bit over the top, in my opinion. But
on that, isn't this is what will happen, right? He wins if he wins, and he wins if Alaphilippe loses. If Alaphilippe was shit for the rest of his contract, well, then the criticism was valid.
Yeah.
If Alaphilippe suddenly performs like today, well, the criticism motivated him. It's like, well, maybe actually he was just going through a bad patch, crashed a shitload last year, had some personal problems, and he would have been back easier and maybe mentally a bit healthier if that criticism wasn't there. Or maybe it did motivate him. I don't know. I don't know the dynamics of their personal relationship.
Yeah, I think it depends on rider per rider. Some riders might handle that well, that criticism, and some riders might not. And maybe Lefevre knows which ones can handle that well and which ones don't. But if I was Alaphilippe, I would not handle that well. I know for me personally, if I was working somewhere and my boss was like, yeah, you're performing so shit, man. Well, I'm looking to get rid of you, stuff like that. Publicly, in the media, well, I probably would just leave.
He's on the contract for a couple of years. Well, yeah. What I would do is what I would do if I was Alaphilippe, you know what I would do? I'd win a stage like this. Because he's got 18 months left. I'd try win a Tour de France stage, yellow jersey. I'd sign a big contract at AG2R in 2025 for 3 years, and I'd do fucking nothing for 18 months. That's what I would do. So, seriously. And that's a risk as well. Now, maybe you don't get to be a professional athlete at that level without just wanting to win all the time. Anyway, great to see him win. Carapaz also in great shape. He won Mont Ventoux Denneval Challenge ahead of goal the other week. So he's obviously coming into a nice bit of shape for the Tour de France, both on long climbs and not the best whilst there, it must be said, but definitely this sort of finish. Tesfatsion on a very, very nice third. I'm not sure if that's his best World Tour result ever. I think it might be, actually, in his career, podium of World Tour race. Laporte fourth, he just didn't have it. They came past him with more speed, and he waited too long to open his sprint and didn't seem to have it. Van Hills, another fifth, another top five. Stannard sixth, Fred Wright seventh, on the eighth, Brenner ninth. So very, very similar to yesterday, 5 through 10th, and then Champoussin 10th. Bennett couldn't sprint. It was a bit too difficult for him. I'm just checking to see if anybody of note lost time. Freyler lost time, so maybe what I said was pointless. Most likely it was. Van Poppel actually couldn't make the finish, nor could Seneschal, but he was probably pulling. Neither could Vernon. Just looking at any... Trenton didn't make the finish. He was actually working to help position Adam Yates. Mattis Mikkels, I think a little bit disappointing for me. I mean, he's like 17 years old, but
he gets younger every time we mention
it.
it.
I just thought I just hoped you'd be competing in these sort of finishes. I'm just checking to see UAE Benji. Oh no, Bjerg Yates, Micah Groschartner all finished together. So they all had guys around everybody. A nice stage, and it's nice how just these parkour look very similar, but with just a few tweaks. You do have largely the same top 10, but you have a different finish, different winner. I really like the first couple of stages.
I actually really do. It's kind of like, in all honesty, if a stage like this was in like week 2 of a Grand Tour, I probably wouldn't like it as much as it being in the first few days of a Dauphiné, but I feel like it's a gentle starter in the Dauphiné, and the race will just ramp up towards the end. And that intensity building is what I like the most, and the factor of yesterday, Gerrits almost winning, Laporte coming over, that drama that gets created. I love that stuff, and today with the resurgence of Alaphilippe, that's also lovely to see. So I love these kind of stages. It's fun to see every now and then to see stages like this, and it's also because the yellow jersey is on the line for these kind of stages. Laporte yesterday, Alaphilippe's now on the same time, so for tomorrow that might matter. We don't know. We'll see that, but I do want to say credits to some youngsters in this race. For example, we spoke about Van Gils for a bit earlier there, Lotto Destiny rider. Last year, I think we spoke about him early on in the season, where he did very good in Saudi Tour, where he won that race, which was kind of an out-of-nowhere performance in terms of didn't expect to see him perform like that in that race. And then he was kind of not that great for the rest of the season. He had weaker moments throughout, and I feel like this year he kind of stepped up in the sense that if we take a look at his 2023 calendar, he started off with good result in Oman again, nothing too crazy either, but then 7th in Amstel, that's a good result. 8th in Flesh, 11th in LBL. That's top 12s in the entire Ardennes week. That's really actually good. Really good.
He's a puncher.
And then
he's a puncher.
I did not know he could sprint as well as he's doing.
4th on that Saint Feliu de Gijol stage that Roglic beat Remco in. He's and then 4th on the stage that Groves beat Cockard and Schelling. He's a puncher.
Yeah,
so
and even Oman, when Ulisi won that stage, I think he was
Oman
also
was
competing
better quality
there.
this year than his Saudi last year.
He's kind of super versatile in between the climby bits and the punchy bits, and even sometimes can compete in the flatter sprints if the group is really thinned out. So I like this rider. I like this rider a lot. 23 years old. Contract is running out at 2024, so he's still there for quite a bit. If you're Lotto Destiny, you want to keep this rider. If you want to have your quest towards World Tour, then this is a rider that you need. And there's a bunch of riders like that in Lotto Destiny. But back to the race itself. Any other things I want to mention? Well, did we mention that Maz lost time yesterday because he blew up in the last kilometer, he said?
Yeah, he said he just didn't feel good in the last K, and Vingegaard's pull dropped him, which on the flat, which is kind of crazy. Landa also lost 15 seconds. I'm not sure which of Maz or Landa lost 15 and 22 seconds, but that's a significant amount of time. That's not just 4 seconds, especially in a 1 week race. We're talking here where you don't expect a Col de Grenol type stage to happen. Yeah. So, yeah, there's a TT, but people fight for every second in a TT, and then you give away 15 and 22 on stage 1. It's got to be a bit demoralizing. But hopefully Maz comes back. Obviously, I'm a big Maz believer, but his record in French stage races is not too good. So I think that changes. London, on the other hand, that I'm not sure what happened there. But yeah, otherwise, stage is fine. Like, did I think Fred Wright was like a bit better on these finishes? Yes, I did. But also, I think he could have a much harder stage, and he's a very versatile rider. Anyway, tomorrow's stage, quote unquote, the sprint stage, it's being billed as 195 k's from Monistrol-sur-Loire to Le Coteau. It is hilly, but not. There's a lot more of a flat section. So there's an opening false flat hill for the first 10 k's. Then there's a 5k 5% hill. Then it is hilly for the next hour or so. But then there is an actual flat valley of 60 kilometers where a breakaway can really get mowed into by some stronger teams. And then there's the Côte de Pinet, which is 7.8 kilometers, 3%. The last K is 5%, so bigger incline. And then that's also 19 Ks from the finish. So given that Groenewegen and Bennett basically made the finish today, I really...
Well, Groenewegen was barking.
Groenewegen didn't. They've got an hour and a half recovery before this climb. It's big ring, 19 Ks to the finish. The problem for them is the break. Like, shouldn't Cavagna or should Quickstep go for Vernon? I think you go Cavagna in the break and then keep Vernon as a saver for the sprint, right?
I think so as well. I think that's the option as well, because then once again, you're not going into the stage with the thought that you're having a potential winner of the stage. You're thinking as the underdog, which will benefit you, because when you put Cavagna in the breakaway, you're basically making sure you don't have to pace behind, which makes sure that the other teams have to pace behind, while you have a second option if the peloton doesn't make it. Then you still have the riders necessary for Vernon in the sprint. So Vernon is their option for this stage, I would say. Flat sprint, you would expect him to do so. I'm not sure about Vernon against this level of competition yet, though, because we're talking about the Groenewegen and Bennett's of sprinters, who on paper will be the favorites for this stage.
And you think they
but
make
I'd like
it?
To see it. You think the peloton? I think the peloton will make it on this one.
No. Do you think the sprinters those two will make the finish with okay legs?
I think Groenewegen wins.
I agree. I tend to agree with you.
But Van Poppel and Bennett, though, good combination, eh?
Bennett's not in terrible shape either. Like, he was there to sprint today. It's just too hard. I think Jumbo should send Van Baarle in the break, or Laporte in the break. I know that's completely outrageous, but Groenewegen's quicker than Laporte. Like, if he makes this finish and Laporte doesn't have a Van Aert to lead him out, who will lead out the Laporte without the door to lead out Laporte? Or
they save energy for the mountain stages, because they don't need to go for every single stage either.
Van Baarle in the breakaway, or Van Hooydonk, or Benoot. They definitely won't be controlling. Jaco and Bora Hansgrohe will control tomorrow. I don't know. These guys... Who's a random person that can sprint?
Who's a random? Marty's Mikkels.
Oh, Coquard's not here. Who did... Oh, Axel Zandler. I don't know what happened to him. He was a bit disappointing today. Stand up.
Why is Alpecin not here with a sprinter? Well, because they probably learned from that. Because we explained it at the start. That's, I think, the reason behind it, right? That at the start we said, why are sprinters here? And now I'm saying, why is he not here?
He is not doing a 1-week hilly stage race, dude.
He's not
he doesn't have
anymore.
To. Philipsen's not doing a 1-week hilly. No, actually, Philipsen would be really good in the last 2 days. I don't know. Where is Van der Poel still? Is he still a road rider? Where is he?
He's still a road rider. Jesus Christ.
Where is he? What's
preparing
he
for the Tour de France, my man.
He's raced 13 days. Same with Laporte. He hasn't raced in 2 months.
How many races has Philipsen done this year? It's also like 13, right?
Van der Poel hasn't raced for 2 months. Dude, he's doing the Duracell Dwars Tour Het Highland and Baloise Belgian Tour. Dude, Philipsen and Van der Poel are doing Ballard's Belgium tour.
Jacobsen too?
Maybe
Ewan?
they just want to do the laundry at home. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I kind of understand it, and we discussed at the top of the show. Like, I'm not a trainer. I don't know the benefit of. I mean, Philipsen and Van der Poel, they could actually win these stages in this race, and there's no Cockart here either, which is you'd think, you know. I'm going to go with Ethan Vernon, Benji, just to be a bit contrarian.
I'm going to go with Sam Bennett because I trust Van Poppel.
I thought you went with Groenewegen.
I skipped. Sorry.
True. Groenewegen doesn't have that last man, and Van Poppel's too good.
You let the podcast go on for too long. I've changed my mind.
Okay. In the end, the breakaway has a really, really good chance. This could be remember the breakaway with the four French riders and Baggioli? This is really similar. This could be, everyone should be trying to get in the break. Harry Sweeney in the breakaway, please. He attacked today. We forgot to mention that. I want to see riders.
Menton sprint incoming.
Is he here?
Yeah. Right?
Yeah, he's not fast. Sweeney in the break.
Okay.
But he's not that fast, is he? Compared to Groenewegen.
Compared to Groenewegen, no, but he can top 5 the sprint.
I mean, sure, yeah. Win a competitivity, congrats.
He's not French enough for that.
You speak French. Well on team in
Milan Monte.
Yeah. Is there any other news that we missed in the last week? We haven't, because we didn't pod for a while. Any other news between Giro and Dauphiné?
Well, between Giro and Dauphiné, I think on the women's cycling side, Shadi Boussaid, who tested positive at her AMB sample, if I recall correctly, for letrozole. Is that the right name I'm mentioning?
It's an aromatase inhibitor. It's a banned breast cancer medicine. I'm not even sure they use it in medicine anymore. I have to check that. But yeah. And it can be used to mask steroid use as an inhibitor. So, or the side effects of it.
In Belgium, there's this huge drama because Ton Aert, some CX rider, was also caught for that 2.5 years ago or something, and then got suspended or something for
2-year ban.
for 2 years, and he's still proclaiming innocence because of a contamination. And I feel like the public is kind of on Ton Aert's side in that thing. I don't know enough about it to know if that's rightful or not, so I don't know what to think about this case either, to be honest.
They share management, so maybe I don't know. I haven't looked in his case whether he actually provided the contaminated supplement that had the letrozole in it. I doubt it. But yeah, you know the golden rules of cycling. If you're South American, anything happens, you're fucked. Go back home. If you're not and you're from a Western country, people might look at you a bit more favorably. That's the rules of cycling. Has been the way forever.
Is it more the language than the nationality? Because I feel like Italian riders are also looked at differently.
And Spanish. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, there is something in that, because you look at like Wiggins, right? Would the Spanish public have treated Wiggins like that? No, absolutely not. No. Or the media. There is no way. I mean, you look at Contador, he literally served a doping suspension. He's on Eurosport, and Happy Days runs a team, and Wiggins, had a parliamentary inquiry into using the TUEs not being for a legitimate medical reason, which is fine too. I'm just, to your point, it is true different countries deal with it differently, but I'm saying the World Tour and the broader cycling public, very much the reaction, not even to things like this, the reaction to people's results.
Yeah.
If someone comes out of nowhere and wins,
is Eastern European.
If you're Eastern European, you're fucked. Everyone's going to call you dirty.
It's crazy.
Well, not everyone, but more likely to. If you're from Australia or you're from America or something, it's like, oh, well, he's improved. Or you're from the, wherever, from English-speaking world, it's like, oh, it's great. He got his weight right off season.
Yeah.
I mean,
by the way, you've been talking about your improvements over the last 2 months. You're flying and so forth, but have we ever questioned whether WADA should be at your doorstep?
Well, I'm not on
You're not on the watch list. Is that your excuse?
Yeah, I'm not in the registered pool. Only thing I dope is my vocal cords with San Pellegrino and Vichy Catalan sparkling water, so I can spit hot takes. as much as possible. Maybe I have too much sparkling water every day. I'm too amped up. Anyway, Lulu's back. I'm back on the bike too. Paniagua, of course. And yeah, that's all from us today. Hope you enjoyed it. We're back for Dauphiné Stage 3 tomorrow. Could be a sprint, could be a breakaway. Nice little balanced stage. And yeah, we'll have the recap for you then. Until then, ciao.